It's that song, OPP, you know me. Who remembers that song? In this case today, we're talking about OPP as other people's priorities, meaning not yours. And in this case, the priorities that might get in the way of your priorities. And this happens all the time, where it could be somebody that's very important to you. Maybe it's your partner, significant other. Maybe it is your child, and you want to be prioritizing for them as well as for yourself. But it can also be for an annoying colleague or client or something that's come out of the blue that you weren't expecting and just throws a wrench in the mix. So how do we deal with these kinds of things and actually keep the peace in our lives, professionally and personally? How do we keep moving towards our priorities? And I think there's nothing like having been both the parent of a toddler as well as working in a huge corporation to help provide perspective on this. I think that when we get down to it, it's really about pulling people into conversations with us as opposed to pushing out information to them. A lot of times when we are on the defense, when we have been struck with a new priority that throws that wrench in the mix, our first reaction is actually to push back. And that's a really natural reaction because we all should be setting appropriate boundaries in our lives. So if that is your first reaction, to set these boundaries really, really strongly, that's okay. That is your natural reaction. For other people, actually, they might want to push back really hard, and they're the opposite, where for whatever reason, they're not setting boundaries at all. They just automatically say yes because that's part of who they view themselves to be as a person, or something that they've been taught over time that they need to do. But let's try and find a happy medium. And I think the real source of this, like I alluded to, working in a really large corporation or talking to a toddler, is that you need to have good communication. So I will say that probably one of the most influential books in my business experience was How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen and Listen So Your Kids Will Talk. And I really only remember the first chapter, but it's all about validating feelings. If you want to go pick up this book, it's fantastic. There's a lot of comics in it, so you really don't have to read it. You can just look at the cartoons and get the gist of it. But the idea is that when you're in a high conflict situation with somebody, and of course the book is about dealing with children, but this is actually something we deal with in a business environment all the time, whether you are working in a large corporation or just in a small, maybe more entrepreneurial setting. When we are trying to communicate with others, it can get very emotional because we're trying to get our needs across, or our boundaries or requirements that we have, our limitations that might actually be very real, right? So let's stick with the kid. They're playing with a dangerous toy, let's say, and we need to take it away, like running with scissors type thing. Okay, well, please give me back the scissors. No. Well, why are you running with scissors? Why would you do that? It doesn't matter. I just want to. So you know that when you're talking about a 3 or 4-year-old even, oftentimes they can just have a complete tantrum. Unfortunately, I think I've seen that happen in the business world too. Most of the time we try and keep our emotions more in check. But a lot of times there's other things that go on too, because as adults we've learned other strategies to take out that aggression when somebody is telling us we can't do something that we want to do. And so it turns into things like politics, or it turns into a desire to isolate ourselves and only do things on our own, as opposed to tapping into the cooperation we can have through working with a team. So people have various reactions to this, but starting with that 3 or 4-year-old reaction, one of the best ways to tap into that conversation and get people talking, anyone talking, is to not ask, why did you do something? If you ask that 3-year-old why they threw their crayons across the room, or why did they take permanent marker and draw on the wall? Well, because I wanted to. Versus, okay, what did you expect would happen in this situation? Oh, well, I really wanted to draw a picture for you, Mommy. Oh, well, what did you expect? Well, how did you think that Mommy was going to react to this, right? Asking those same kind of questions in a corporate environment, asking what and how instead of why, can actually lead to much better information. And I keep saying corporate, but really this is in any environment with adults. You're going to get better information when you ask what or how instead of why. Why is that? What does it really serve when we do that? Well, first of all, the why question actually starts getting people defensive. It actually reminds them of the 3-year-old situation, right? Either they're being confronted by a parent, well, why would you do such a thing? Right? When oftentimes as the parent, we're just scared or we're nervous, right? And we get in business situations where we're scared or we're nervous because revenue is on the line, a client relationship is on the line, a job is on the line. And so people get defensive when they hear the question, why? Another thing that can happen is it also, again, reminds us of the 3 or 4-year-old who's asking why annoyingly all the time. Why this? Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? And it's cute for a little bit. But after, that phase turns into 3 or 4 weeks, you start to just want it to stop. And so it also sort of reminds us of this annoying habit of being questioned when there really isn't necessarily an end or a real reason. Sometimes there are just limitations. So when you switch the questions around and you start asking what and how, particularly in the adult conversations, you're going to get a lot better information out of somebody. Well, why can't we do something like this? We just can't. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, well, what is the reason that we're doing it this way? How could we make this possible? What if we did this instead? How does this change things for you if we try it a new way? When we change these questions around, they stop triggering some of that emotion in people, number one, which gets you better conversation. And number two, you'll find that it actually gets you far richer information that actually leads to a better discussion, because if you can take in this information you're being given, you're able to negotiate better, you're able to create connection with that person, get them on your team in a better way. So I challenge you to think about how you can change the questioning that you do, particularly when you are in a confrontation situation or you need to be working with somebody to get them from, let's say, a no to a maybe to a yes, and get them on board with you and the priorities that you have versus just their priorities. So when those two things are butting up against each other, other people's priorities, this is one of the key tactics that you can use to actually move past the block and move into more of a cooperative stance. So if you are interested in learning more, you can find me over at my page. My name is Rachel Steininger. You can follow me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. And also I offer free classes every Wednesday, mostly talking about how time management maybe isn't the end all be all, but how we can step more into our lives, into our careers, and really offer the world a whole lot more. So talking about how we can be more effective in terms of being in the moment, how we can do this without having to be all zen and perfect. We can do things using tools and actions that we're going to take anyway, every single day. And also critical things like this, like interacting with stakeholders, whether that is your 3-year-old child or that is somebody that you're working with in a professional setting. Some of those techniques cross over really well. So I hope that you join in for one of these Wednesday sessions where I'm teaching a free class, and you're also welcome to register for that. Links to all of these places are at the end of this video or in the comments. So thank you for listening, and I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks.